Yes, guys, you know what time it is. It's your boy David at the Irish Hotspur, Ireland's #1 Spurs fan, presenting Tell Me Your Spurs Story. And here with us tonight, sharing her story, we have Abbi. Abbi Summers, how are you keeping?
I am good. So happy to be on with you. Pleasure.
Yeah, no, thanks very much for coming on. You know, we were supposed to do this a while ago, but unfortunately I was a bit sick, couldn't do it. But it's great. It's great that you gave me the time again and rescheduled. Top notch. Thank you so much. But look, we may as well get into it. Supporting Tottenham, look, it's a roller coaster. You know, it brings us many highs and many lows. It gives us many great memories in life as well, memories that we'll cherish forever, creates bonds that will never be broken. But how did you get into supporting Tottenham?
So my dad grew up in Edmonton, which is just around the corner from Tottenham.
Yeah.
And I'm an only child, so my dad never really pushed football on me. He just, you know, it was whether or not I was going to just take to it or not.
Yeah.
And it actually, my love for football didn't actually start with Tottenham. It started with England. I remember watching an England game, and I was really quite little. I can't remember if it was a Euros or a World Cup, but I think I was about 6 or 7, and I remember watching it. And I was like, wow, like I love this, like it's amazing. And then obviously by default, I was a Tottenham fan because my dad was a Tottenham fan.
Yeah.
And I've been going ever since. And he's, you know, he always says to me, you know, you're the daughter I always wanted, but the son I never had. Because, you know, we've been going to football together since I was, you know, eight years old, home, away, Europe, everything. So that's how I got into it. And obviously it helped that, you know, my dad was always a big supporter. He always went when he was younger. And he grew up kind of within the area. So it's in the blood, really.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Look, it's similar myself, you know. My old lad's always been a Spurs fan. And many people know this, I don't know if you do, but I actually grew up in Croydon in London. Wow. Yeah. So, like, you know, we used to go to some of the games in the 90s and stuff like that. We used to go to White Hart Lane and that. So, you know, and I'd be very close to my old lad. And look, it's created a good bond between us, you know, having Tottenham to bond over. It's been absolutely brilliant. So I'd be similar to yourself. Do you ever play football growing up?
I played a little bit at school, but I was never very good. I mean, there wasn't a massive focus on sports at my school anyway. So we'd have probably like 3 or 4 games a year, if that. And I was that bad that the team was also that bad, but it made me look good. But no, I was never massively the sporty type to play it myself when I was growing up.
Yeah, no, but sure. Look, you know what I mean? I love football. I always played growing up, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. But like that, our school wasn't really big on sports either. But, you know, I played for my local team and my county team and that, so it was all good fun. But look, one of my early Spurs memories is I had a navy blue Hewlett Packard jersey that my old lad bought me. I had the socks and I had the whole kit. I had the socks and shorts to go with it. I was only a wee little nipper. What's your earliest memory?
I had a kit similar to yours, if not the same. I remember loving it. I have a terrible memory, genuinely, when it comes to thinking of games and stuff. I have awful recall on that. I remember, I believe one of my first games that I went to was before I actually had a season ticket. I remember going with a family friend when I was little. I remember it being around Christmas time. Could not tell you the score, could not tell you who we played. It was that long ago. But, you know, one of my more recent, when I was growing up memories, when I was in school and I was loving it so much and obviously understanding the game far more. You know, one of the ones that spring to mind the most is that Danny Rose one against Arsenal, and probably was about 14 at the time. And it was a time when obviously Spurs were on the up, and it was, you know, it always sticks in my mind as thinking like as one of the moments where I really was like, wow, I really love football. I really love this team, because obviously I've been going for near on, you know, 8 years before that or so. But like I said, my memory is pretty shit when I think back of those games and that, and like, you know, through the Martin Yole eras and things like that. But yeah, that's always a game that sticks in my mind as like a key moment in my life, thinking, wow, like I'm just so in love with this sport. I'm so in love with this club, and you know, it's always been that way with me.
Yeah, it's brilliant. You know, it's great to hear your passion for this club. It's absolutely brilliant to hear. And, you know, you're in a privileged position being able to go to weekend games, you know, week in, week out, because, you know, you're making a lot of Spurs fans jealous there, because there's some people that aren't season ticket holders or people in other countries that, you know, it's not easy for them to get to games. So you're privileged to be able to go week in, week out, I have to say.
I know, and do you know what? I promise you, I don't take it for granted. You know, I'm really lucky. I've worked really hard to be able to work with Sony, who I'm working with at the moment, and being able to go to those games, cover them, see them live. Obviously, it's really weird doing it because I've always gone as a fan, and you know, to go and actually be reporting on the game, you know, hosting and doing what I'm doing with them. it really puts it in a completely different perspective and different light, especially when there's no fans there as well. So trust me, I don't take it for granted at all. I love every minute of it. I'm so thankful for Sony for giving me that opportunity that I get to go and watch my own team pretty much all the time now. So really, really thankful for that.
Yeah, fair play. And come here, you know, it's a question you don't have to answer it if you want, but how did that come about and how do you find doing the reporting?
I've always done freelance stuff. So I've worked full time since I was 17, completely unrelated to football and Spurs. I've worked for a fitness brand since I was 17. And I've always done my freelance stuff on the side, never went to university. So everything I've got has just been from purely, you know, my own talents and working and grafting and finding connections and building those relationships and putting yourself out there. So that's basically it. And obviously I started working with Sony around about 7-8 months ago, just doing a little bit here and there. And the relationship has just developed and grown. And obviously Sony is based in India, and it's kind of like their version of Sky and BT. And if you think about how big India is, it's such a massive audience that it reaches, which is amazing for me as well for the exposure and to be given that opportunity. So so our relationship just developed, and in India there's a very big Tottenham following, funnily enough. It's mainly, you know, United based and Liverpool based, but because they really find Jose Mourinho quite intriguing, there's quite a lot of interest in Spurs out in India and Asia now. So look, it's boding well in my favour. So I guess it's good while he's still there.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what? Keep it up. It's brilliant. It's testament to the work that you put in, and you're being rewarded now. Do you know what I mean? So fair play to you. It's exactly what you want to see, especially people that are involved with Tottenham. You know what I mean? You always want to see them do well. You always want to help build the dream. But look, you know what made me fall in love with Tottenham is just the camaraderie. Like, you know, even when I was a young lad, you know, I could stand on the terraces with adults, you know, chanting, singing the team on. But even now, like, no, when I go with mates or with my father, you know, we always end up drinking with other Spurs fans, having the crack. You know what I mean? It's like a family. Even though, you know, they don't know us, we don't know them. Just because you have Tottenham in common, you know what I mean? People accept you. People like to talk to you and stuff like that. But what made you fall in love with this club?
So similar to you, really. I mean, obviously, growing up at White Hart Lane, it had such an amazing family feel. Everyone was so close, and you know, the people you sit next to kind of become your friends in like a really weird way. If you don't go with your friends, you just go on your own, or just, you know, with your dad or your mum or whatever. So the people that sit next to you are a big part of your game. And sadly, I don't sit next to the same people anymore that I did sit next to before we moved to the new stadium. And you know, those guys, I don't know if they follow me. I mean, if they do, hopefully they'll remember me. And I really miss sitting next to you guys because you were great. But yeah, that's a big part of your match day experience, and you know, it builds such a bond. You look forward to going, you look forward to seeing people talking, you know, shit about the week and talking about the team, and just, you know, you all feel it. And I think that with Tottenham, it is such a family club in the sense that you're right. You could go and have a beer with someone you've never met, and you could just bond over Tottenham. You can bond, and that's what's great about loving football in general. You could be anywhere in the world, and you'll see someone that's wearing, you know, a football shirt, whether it be someone who supports Leicester or someone who supports Wolves or Arsenal or whatever, and you automatically have that bond because you've got something to talk about. And you know, what made me fall in love with the club is that we all know what the club is about. We all know what style of football you want to see. You all know what you kind of have an expectation about. You know what the board is about. You know what type of manager you want. You know what type of player you want. You know, there's a big ethos with the club, and it's just, it's something you can't put your finger on. But I think if you support Tottenham, you know that feeling you get when you're at the stadium. I mean, like I said yesterday, going to that game last night, you know, there's no one in the stadium, fans, nothing at all like that. It's not the norm. But you know, even driving down the high road, seeing chicken and seeing like just everything and thinking, wow, like, you just have a connection to it. There's just a pull that if you love the club and you love Tottenham, you get excited even just driving down the high road. And as sad as that might sound, that is just me. I'll always be excited just to, you know, walk down that high street, look at the stadium and just be inside there, whatever age I'm at.
No, honestly, to be honest with you, it's not sad. Like when I do get over to a game or two once a year, I try my best. And look, as soon as I reach Seven Sisters and I come up Seven Sisters and I start walking down the high road, I feel the excitement as well. So, you know, it's definitely not sad and it's definitely nothing to apologise about. I think every Spurs fan deep down knows they feel the same way. Interesting that you brought up the new stadium. What do you make of the new stadium? And as well, do you think they're utilising that wall that was supposedly to generate all that noise to full effect? Of course, when the fans were allowed in the stadium.
I think the stadium is stunning. I think it's, you know, an incredible home without it being a home, if that makes sense. I think that obviously the unfortunate thing is that, you know, White Hart Lane was so small in the sense that, you know, like the noise coming from White Hart Lane was always immense because of how small it was. And, you know, we've effectively doubled in size. And in doing that, we've gone from playing, you know, amazing football every week, you know, to seeing the back end of the Pochettino era, watching us drop off a bit, adapting to that new stadium. And then obviously Corona came. There was a lot of changes and, you know, we weren't even in that stadium 6 months, pretty much, you know, consecutively before it was all over and none of us have really been back. So for me, it's not yet a home, whereas obviously White Hart Lane was, and you have that feeling when you think of White Hart Lane, that warm, fuzzy feeling. I don't have that same feeling with the stadium, but I can appreciate what an amazing structure it is, how it will benefit us long term, and how it was needed. As much as I loved White Hart Lane, would have been happy to stay in that size stadium forever. Where I would hope the club will go in the future, they had to have something to progress it forward, you know, and that's why you see clubs like Everton looking to do the same, because as much as, you know, going to Goodison Park is lovely, it's a family feel stadium. If they want to compete and push on with the big boys, they're also going to have to do the same. And, you know, I can appreciate that it is a business fundamentally. And, you know, even going there yesterday and you walk in, every time you see it, it is amazing. You know, you can't knock the board for what they have built. It is a stunning stadium. But, you know, I think that after Corona and once everyone's back, they'll have a whole new appreciation for going to games. You know, you'll see sometimes a 12 o'clock kickoff against, you know, a crappy team. You'll think, oh, I can't really bother to go to that sometimes. But I think now everyone will just relish in going and being around each other and enjoying that stadium, being in that wall, singing. And I just hope that the football will spur people on to sing and get involved.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree with you, and I just want to say, when fans do get back into the stadium, and Abby, I have no doubt that you'll be a part of this, but I want everyone to sing at the top of their lungs. I want them to greet the team buses they're coming in with flares and everything else, and really make the most of it. I really do want everyone to enjoy it, and I genuinely think they do, because I think, you know, if anything, this period has shown people how much they actually miss going to the games and how lucky they are to be able to get to go to the games. And as well, I just want to say, you know, you've gone from the stand upgraded to the media box, so fair play to you. You know what I mean? It's testament to the work you've put in, and brilliant. Fair play to you. Look, Abby, there's been so many greats spanning the years wearing Tottenham jerseys. You know, you have Glenn Hoddle, Gascoigne, Ozzy Ardiles. You know, even now you have Harry Kane. You've had Modric, Keane, Berbatov. You know, you've had Ledley King, players like that. But who was your favourite player to ever play in a Spurs jersey, and why?
Well, I've had different ones for different eras. I mean, I love David Ginola, obviously. I think everyone loves David Ginola. I loved Teddy Sheringham. You know, I loved Robbie Keane pre-move to Liverpool. Jermaine Defoe was my favourite growing up. And he, I mean, what a player. I loved it. I was so heartbroken when he left. And when he came back, it was like Christmas. All my Christmases came at once. But obviously the later years, and you had Bale. Obviously, everyone loved Modric, everyone loved Van der Vaart. But now, you know, when I look at this team, I love Moussa Dembele, another one, Jan Vertonghen. I've had a lot of favourite players over the years. For me, at the moment, undoubtedly, it would be Harry Kane. I think where he has grown with the club, whether or not he'll be there past this summer, I think all of us are kind of bracing ourselves for that potential move. And don't really hold it against him if he was to go, because I think we all understand, you know, what a player we have in Harry, what the service he's given to the club. And of course, I think we'd love to keep him. I think he'd like to stay. If he's always said if the club was moving in the right direction. But obviously, I think we're bracing ourselves for that to come to a natural end. Similar with Bale, but obviously not the Bale of now, the Bale of old. But you know, for me, he's my favourite player at the moment. I think the type of player he is, the roles he can play, he can make something out of absolutely nothing. whether he's tracking back, defending, he's all over. And I think he's such an incredible player. And I think the amount of stick he gets for being English and just for playing for Tottenham is absurd. If he was in any other league in the world, he'd be lauded over. I think he's incredible. So for me, I love seeing Harry, and I will never have anyone say a bad word about him.
No, neither would I. You know what I mean? I absolutely adore him. I love when he walks out and you see Kane number 10 on the back of the jersey. Absolutely love it. But the most amazing thing is that we've all been able to watch his rise. Do you know what I mean? He was sent out on loans. Nobody really gave the kid a chance. All of a sudden, he's given his chance. He gets his first goal for Tottenham against Shamrock Rovers in the Europa League. And he's just gone on from there. We've all seen his rise. And it's, we've seen him basically go from a kid to a man. And it's absolutely fantastic.
He's grown with the club as the club has grown. And obviously, we're at this stage, a bit of a crossroads at the moment, and we'll see what happens. But I remember being in that Villa game where he came on, and everyone was wanting him to come on. It was, I think, that game at Pochettino. It was like it was going to be very hit or miss if he was going to continue after that game. And everyone, I remember in the stands, we were saying, just bring Kane on. Like, it can't be any worse than what's out there at the minute. And he'd come on, and obviously, the free kicks deflected, and that the rest is history. And from that point, like you said, he's we've seen him go from a boy to a man. Loved every step of it, of watching him, and I think what a player. And it'll just be such a shame if he leaves and we haven't won anything with him.
Yeah,
such a shame.
No, 100%. I to be honest with you, I speak for every Spurs fan, I suppose. None of us really want him to leave, but like you were saying, if it came to it, and he wants to win trophies, or he wants to leave Tottenham and try and progress and get a trophy under his belt before he does retire, I don't blame him. But a question I have, I didn't actually plan to ask you this, but while we're speaking on Kane, for me, I actually think, with his ankle injuries and everything else, it's going to take its toll on him eventually in a couple of years. And for me, I think if he is going to move and clubs are willing to shell out the money, it'll be this summer. I think if he stays beyond this summer, I think you might see him retire at Tottenham. But what do you think?
I think that had Corona not have happened last summer, I think he would have gone. I think that it's going to be very dependent on the price tag Daniel Levy puts on him. I can't foresee Levy selling him for less than 150. I think it will be between 150 to 200 million he wants. People might think that's, ridiculous sum of money. But if you look at Levy's history, he's a player that is priceless to Tottenham. So effectively, he can stick whatever price tag he wants on Harry Kane because he's under contract. If you want him, I want 200 million for him, 150 million. And that's that. But my thing with it is that obviously he is quite injury prone. He does tend to miss, 6, 8, 12 weeks sometimes of a season. Yeah. So if I'm a club that's got that money to put into a player and, let's say Tottenham want 165 million, for him, and you've got potentially Neymar, potentially Mbappe that is a little bit more money, maybe, if not around the same money, and you're having to look at your options. Who do you go with? Do you go with Harry Kane, who is, proven, what amazing striker, amazing team player, number 10, everything. However, that you're going to miss probably quite a large chunk of that season because of these ankles. And it's not just one ankle, it's two. And obviously last season we saw the issue with the hamstring, something we hadn't seen before. Or do you go with someone that's younger? Because also Kane's 27 now. So that's where you weigh up. He's in his prime, but obviously you got to weigh it up when you're spending that amount of money and how far that money can take you. If you look at someone like Haaland, 20 years old, probably going to have a similar price tag, maybe around that as well. But starting his career, who do you take? If you're City or United or Madrid or PSG or someone like that, who do you take? So I think that I would be surprised if we didn't win anything this season, if he would still be there. But I think potentially because clubs are still recovering from this virus, and they will be for the foreseeable future, I think there maybe would be a chance that he would stay. But I think it's a slim chance if we don't win anything.
Yeah, no, look, I fully agree with you, and I think you speak for the Spurs fan base. To be honest with you, I think they'd all agree exactly with what you just said there. Absolutely brilliant and spot on. Look, so we've had many great managers. For me, you had Martin Jol, who kind of took us from where we were into this kind of new era of Tottenham. Then you had Of course, you had Harry Redknapp then, who kind of kicked us on into Europe. He got us into the Champions League for the first time. And then, obviously we brought in Pochettino, brought us to a Champions League final, 2 league title run and chases. We've also had many semi-finals. We had a League Cup final. We had FA Cup semi-finals. You know what I mean? And then, of course, now we have Mourinho. He has us in the League Cup final. Okay, the league's not going great. We're still in the Europa League. So there's been many great managers. You even have Terry Venables. He's won us a couple of trophies. You know what I mean? Keith Birkinshaw. You have many great managers over the years. But who's your favourite ever manager?
I base my managers off of, obviously, the managers I've watched in my lifetime. I loved Harry Redknapp and I loved Martin Jol. Like you said, where they both took us to, everything was a bit of a building block. One took us there, the next one, and so on and so forth. Look, for me, Pochettino was it. I think, I'm not saying he doesn't have his moments. I'm not saying he's free of criticism. There are times when he should have taken cuts more seriously. There are substitutions in big games which were a little bit mind-boggling, tactical decisions. However, if you look at his tenure at Tottenham and you think what he did, spending 2 seasons away from home, 2 windows without transfer, looking at some of the team he had and what he managed and how they managed to play miles above their levels. For me, he took this club to a place that I don't think any of us thought we'd be. However, we got to that Champions League final, we managed to get there. I think that none of us probably thought we'd ever reach Champions League final in our life. We played the most Tottenham style of football you could have asked us to play. Every week you'd enjoy going, you'd enjoy watching that football, you'd love seeing the team, you knew what you were going to get every week. And obviously, towards the end, it was dying off a little bit. But my argument will always be that half the squad was stale. Some of those players are still there, it's you can argue with his decisions on certain things, but he always said if he had the players at some points that he wanted, or he would have been given the backing. I think that summer after the Champions League, I know we brought in Ndombele in, but when you look, we brought in Jack Clark, and I can't even think who else we brought in that summer. But whoever it was, of course, Lo Celso. Lo Celso's only played 19 games since he arrived. So, and that's not his fault. And, I don't think you can blame Pochettino for that. But I think that if he would have been given the backing that he surely earned for all those things that had gone through, I don't believe we would have been in this position that we're in now in the league. And for me, he's by far my favourite manager. I loved every minute of that. And I look back thinking of games even against, Juventus 2-0 down and ending up 2-2. Even the game when we went out to them, I think we should have gone through. I thought we were the better team. And they were just a joy to watch, an absolute joy to watch. And, you go to football to be entertained, to enjoy what you're watching, what you're paying for. And he gave me an amazing 5.5 years. So, he'll be my favourite until someone comes along and does something better. Yeah, no,
100%. Look, for me, Harry Redknapp was actually my favourite because as kind of like a young lad going into teenager and that, it was the first time I was able to kind of come out and give them Liverpool fans and United fans a bit of stick with some pride. But with Pochettino, what he done for us Spurs fans is he gave us the belief going into every game that we could win every week.
He made you dream, and that's the difference. Yeah. And I totally agree with you. Harry Redknapp, like I said, Redknapp was great, and I really loved the Redknapp years. Loved him as a manager. Loved the squad. I look back on the squad and I loved the squad. I mean, they all worked really hard for each other. I loved it. But I think when Poch came in, he built up this thing with the fans, and it's so rare that you see a manager leave a club and fans are genuinely so devastated. A year and a half later, fans are still devastated about the fact that he's not at the club anymore. And you've got to have done something right. And there's lots of people on, Spurs Twitter that say, it's Pochettino wankfest and whatever, and get over it. It's not about that no one's over it. It's just about, he was treated unfairly at the end. And I think that most people, I'd say a good 80+% would agree that he probably should have got a little bit longer than he did. He should have got the backing, and I think he earned it. And I think that what he did when he came to Tottenham, having those title runs and getting to the Champions League final, he made fans believe that Tottenham could do anything, like you said, and it made you dream, not just, you know, think that you were going to lose every time you went out on the pitch. And I know that a lot of us have that mentality that we all think a game is lost, you know, especially at the moment before we even kick off. And those years under Pochettino, you never felt that way. Never ever felt that way.
No, 100%. And look, I agree. You know, a lot of Spurs fans are sour that he wasn't given the time to rebuild because, you know, I always say that time will always tell, and time has told, because, you know, there's some of these same players in the squad now that were under Pochettino, you know what I mean, that just, like you said, it's gone stale, you know what I mean? You can see they're not giving it their all right now, and it really is annoying. And time is a wonderful thing, and it's proven that, you know, Pochettino should have been backed. He should have been backed. He should have been, especially because he earned it. You know what I mean? He earned it. Look at the squad he took to the Champions League final. You know what I mean? And the prime squad he built up when you had Wanyama, Dembele in the middle, you had Walker, Rose, a centre-back partnership of, you know, Vertonghen, Alvaro, Kane, Son, Eriksen, Dele. Like, that prime squad, obviously Lloris and goals, was an unbelievable squad. And honestly, that guy, you know what I mean? He's allowed me to watch my team on the greatest stage, which is the Champions League final, on the biggest stage of European football with my outlad. Something I could only dream of doing growing up. I never ever thought I'd get to watch Tottenham in the Champions League. I grew up watching Valencia, Real Madrid, Juventus, Bayern Munich, Barcelona, you know, even United winning one, and, you know, Chelsea as well. And, you know, it kills. You always sit there looking at the Champions League final every year saying, why can't we be there? When is it Tottenham's turn? And we finally got there. Although the result went sour, it's something that, you know, I'll forever be indebted to Poch.
Of course. I think that with the result, it was one of those things. We can all debate whether it was or it wasn't a penalty. I think most Spurs fans will tell you it's not a penalty. Every Liverpool fan will say it is a penalty. You know, had we played against someone else in the final, maybe it's a different result. I just think that, you know, Liverpool playing the season before, they were a lot like us. We went there to play the game, which is
they were ready. They knew what to expect.
They you know, they'd learned from their mistake the year before. You don't go, and it sounds ridiculous, but you don't go and play a Champions League final how you would do in an ordinary match. Yeah. You know, you go there, you catch on the break, you take the one or two chances you get. And obviously Liverpool had learned from Madrid the year before, whereas we obviously went in and, you know, can't blame Pochettino for it. And people who say, oh, well, Lucas should have started. No, Lucas shouldn't have started. You know, if he could have started over someone else, but if Harry Kane's fit, you play Harry Kane in the biggest game of your club's history, without a doubt. And it's a ridiculous conversation to even have on that, in my opinion. But I think that when you look at what he had there, and, you know, you could see the team was becoming stale. And if only we'd have been instead of being reactive, we would have been proactive in those transfer windows, in that. And I think that when you look at the teams that were challenging for the title, when we had that peak team, you know, 2017, 18, you know, you look back and you think, okay, this team is like one or two players away from winning the league. And you look at the squad now and you think, my God, you think you need 5-6 players probably in this side. And that's trying to keep your key players in Kane and Son and Ndombele, and, you know, and I think that's the problem with Tottenham. I think that we've been too reactive, and it's set us back, and it's undone a lot of the work that was put in by Redknapp, by Pochettino, by not pushing on at the right time. And you know, it's not down to them; it's down to the board. Yeah,
and you know, I fully agree with you. It's interesting that you brought up the word reactive, because I always say that, you know, in football you need to be proactive, not reactive. And Tottenham are the complete opposite. We're not proactive, we are reactive. And like you said, you know what I mean, there's been a couple of times there where you're looking at it and you're saying, you know, just that one or two players with a bit of quality, that extra bit of quality, we could have kicked on. We could have been talking about being league champions by now, Champions League champions, you know what I mean, winning an FA Cup and a League Cup along the way. And, you know, look, this is what really divides the squad or the fan base at the minute as well, is the board. Because, like, you know, look, they gave us the infrastructure, they gave us, you know, the training ground, they gave us the stadium, you know, they built the magnificent infrastructure. But at the same time, it's come to a detriment of on the pitch success. And for me, like, you know, the reason why Harry Kane and Son work so hard every day in training, week in, week out, is because ultimately you're in football to win trophies. You know what I mean? So there comes a point where the board have to they just have to pull that trigger a little bit. You know, they have to pull the trigger and just say, right, we're going to go for it. I'm
in complete agreement. I get a lot of stick for saying I don't back the board, but it's not a case of not backing the board. I can appreciate what ENIC have done for the club. There's no doubting that, where they've taken them with the training ground, one of the best training grounds in the world, one of the best stadium, if not the best stadium in the world, having, all in which keeping their morals with the wage structure, pretty much, more or less. I can appreciate that the club is a business, but I could also look at it from the flip side and say, well, as a fan, you want to match that. If you want to sell this club, they value the club at $1 billion or £1 billion. It's got all that debt that comes with it. Sorry, they value it at $2 billion, and it's got $1 billion worth of debt. So you put all that into the club. You want to sell the club eventually. Joe Lewis puts no money into that club, hasn't done for years and years and years. So everything that's gone back in on investment and things like that has been generated by us fans, and has been generated by sales and success. It's been generated by the success that Pochettino had, by him making do with what he had pretty much and cracking on, getting those Champions League spots consistently, pushing on and getting that revenue in. So when you look at it and you say, okay, well, actually, you haven't really invested that much of your own money back into the side. Yes, but I can appreciate what you've done off the pitch, but where's your ambition on the pitch? Don't you want to, firstly, if you want to sell the club, make the club great again, get it in the top four. You want this club to be winning trophies, then everyone will bite your hand off for it, make it marketable. No one wants to buy a team that's, 9th place, not winning anything. You've got a manager that's on, £15 million a year. You've got, someone like Gareth Bale who's sitting there, we're playing 200 grand on wages, and the guy hasn't even been playing, up until the last couple of games. And you think, make it profitable. Don't you want to see this club that you've built off the pitch go on and do well on the pitch? And that's where I get my backup about it. And it doesn't mean you don't appreciate. And I think this is where it gets lost in translation. A lot of the time with fans, they can't decipher between appreciating what someone has done but expecting more on the pitch from that. You have to match the ambition you've put into the club off of it if you want to have success on it. And it's as simple as that. And until I feel personally that this board cares about the direction of the club, not just balancing sheets and things like that, and opening the purse strings, because Joe Lewis, I promise you, can compete with Roman Abramovich. I remember interviewing Harry Redknapp during the summer.
He's a tennis court on his yacht.
The guy, I promise you, Harry Redknapp has said, the guy could compete with Abramovich, no issue money wise. So while you have an owner that doesn't want to dip in his own pocket, and my whole thing with Daniel Levy is effectively he's just a mouthpiece. He's not. Yes, he's not putting his own money into it realistically. So
in terms of ENIC with Daniel Levy, what I always say is like, if you're ENIC, Daniel Levy is doing a fantastic job for you. You know what I mean?
The job that he's doing,
he takes them out of the headlines, because a lot of people always put the attention on Daniel Levy, but not the right place, which is ENIC.
Absolutely.
He takes the attention away from them.
But he will take the stick for it, and he will be that because that's his job. But he does a fantastic. He does a fantastic. I agree, but a fantastic job in looking after the business side of the club. You have to look after the football side of the club, because ultimately, as much as it's a business, it's a football club. You've got fans that are paying their hard-earned money every single week to come watch you. Want to see the best there can be. We've all seen Tottenham at the very worst, growing up. But I think, you and I probably had it far better than a lot of, my dad, your grandpa, I think people like that, seeing things like that. The 90s were abysmal, and, under Alan Sugar and things like that. And you think, look how far the club has come. Great. But let's capitalize on that. Let's grow the club, put some money in. Let's take this club where it needs to be. Don't let the team get to this point where you've still got players who probably should have been out the door 2 years ago because they weren't good enough. And they're here and now they're starting games because that's the only option that we have, So that's where my grievance is. But I think sometimes people just need to look at it rationally. And like, it's a similar thing with the Jose thing. I don't know if you want to come onto it, but about Jose in, Jose out. It's not necessarily about Jose. It's a bigger picture. It's part of the puzzle. It's not, we can disagree with his football. It's not particularly nice to watch. However, when we were top of the league, none of us really cared. We were happy to accept it as long as we were winning games. It's a totally different argument when you're not winning games. And that's why we're in the position we're in. Stop focusing on the defence, because we clearly can't defend. Utilise what Tottenham are good at, which is attacking. Going forward, use your attacking players, because that's where you're going to hurt teams. Not trying to sit back and worry about what the opposition's doing. Focus on what Tottenham are good at. And there was an article that was in the Athletic yesterday, basically saying that, that exactly that. And then you've got the issue with the players. The players say they're not worked hard enough. Well, they're the same players that said they were overworked under Pochettino, didn't want Pochettino anymore, down tools, and now, the grass isn't always greener. And then you've got the issue with the board. So it's all three things as to why Tottenham are in this position that we're in. But look, it could still be a good season. We could end up coming out of it with 2 cups. We might finish 9th or 10th, but lots of people would have said, well, trophies equals success, doesn't it? So I guess then you'd view that as a successful season with two trophies. Well,
look, first and foremost, I always say the reason why people love football and want to get into football and, support your team is because ultimately you want to be successful, lift trophies. You don't care how you do it as long as you get it done. You want the one with the bragging rights. And you know what? Everything you just said there is exactly what I always talk about on my channel. So you are right at home here on the Irish Hotspur. Absolutely brilliant. And just one more thing before we get on to the last few questions. For me, look, it's no surprise that, when Enoch decided to make that decision to furlough staff, and then all of a sudden, it wasn't Daniel Levy that the press were talking about like they usually would. It was straight away Enoch and how much they were worth. It was coming out what they owned, what they were worth. And for me, it's no surprise that as soon as that started coming out, they reversed the decision straight away. You know what I mean? And the reason why is because they genuinely don't want us Spurs fans to know that they can actually financially back this club on the field for success. But it's now come to a point with the debt and everything else, and of course the manager we have in charge now, that for me, look, they also have to decide whether they want to back Mourinho properly in the summer. First of all, I'll make it clear it's going to have to come out of Joe Lewis and Enoch's pocket. There's no other money available. It's going to have to come from their pocket. But then you also have to sit down and decide, are they going to back Jose and give him the players he's want because his CV is proven, which ultimately his CV is what he's employed on. It's proven. You back him. He'll get you the very best trophies. Or do you go for another 5-year project, get that manager in and back him? But either way, this club is going to need backing. It's going to have to come from Enoch's pockets. I'm afraid that they probably won't do it. And this is why I'm scared with the direction this club is going in right now. Would you agree?
I agree with you in terms of the fact that the backing I can't foresee. Tottenham have historically always done things on the cheap, and that's how they always are. Jose has even said, Steven Bergwijn. I'm just saying there's nothing wrong with Steven Bergwijn, but I'm just making a point here before anyone says I don't like him. My point is, anyway. It is, but that goes for most of our forward players. He's openly said Steven Bergwijn wasn't his first choice. He was like his 3rd or 4th choice on that list, but he got him and they had to work with it. And that is exactly Tottenham's problem. No one's saying that you have to go for the Messis, the Neymars, the Mbappes of the world. No one's expecting Tottenham to do that. But you know what? Go for the second on the list. Put your money where your mouth is. Go for the second option that you wanted. The realistic option. If you keep bringing in average players or players that are not going to push you to where you need to be, what is the point of bringing them in? And I'm not singling out Steven Bergwijn. This goes throughout our squad. There are defenders, there are right backs, there are left backs, there are midfielders, there are forward players. This is all across our team. I doubt, aside from Ndombele, who was Pochettino's first choice, I doubt most of those signings under the Pochettino era were his first choice. I highly, highly doubt it. Maybe Toby Alderweireld back then in that second season, but in the last probably 3.5-4 years, I very much doubt it that Lucas Moura was his choice. As far as I'm aware, not his choice, and things like that. So if you're going to bring in average players that would probably finish somewhere between 5th and 8th, don't expect to finish any higher than between 5th and 8th. If you want the caliber of player that is going to bring the best out of Harry Kane, the best out of Heung-min Son, the best out of Ndombele, you've got to match it. You've got to match the ambition with what you've got. You can't just have a few stars in that team. You've got to have a good enough team and a good enough squad. And I would say that Mourinho had a better summer than I expected him to have. Reguilon, great. Højbjerg, great. The two that spring to mind. I won't pass my judgment on Rhoden yet. He hasn't done anything to offend me. There's far worse defenders I've seen at the club this season than Joe Rhoden. Awful signing as it's looking at the moment, which I think all of us are very surprised about because, at Wolves, he looked like he was flying over the years.
At Wolves, he was able to kind of abandon his defensive duties a lot more because the way they play with the three centre-backs, so he always had cover, whereas now at right back, he's having to get up and down a lot more, and I just don't think he has the engine personally. But not even that. It's getting to the point where the guy can't even control football.
No,
you know what I mean? It's getting embarrassing, And again, this is what happens when you buy cheap. You know what I mean? I always say change the motto from to dare to do to the cheapest will do, because it's what happens at Tottenham. You know what I mean? And look, you don't even need to spend vast amount of money to be able to get quality players. Look what Leicester done that time when they won the league. Look what Leipzig do. You know what I mean? Once you have the right scouting infrastructure in place, which we don't at Tottenham, you usually get the benefits and rewards of that as well.
I totally agree with you. A lot of it is to do with Steve Hitchen. I've seen loads of things going around on Twitter lately about the signings made under Steve Hitchen. And you have a look at it and you pick out probably no more than 5 out of I think it was like 20 plus under him, and you pick out probably 5 that have been good and impactful and things like that. And that's the thing. It comes down to recruitment. It comes down to the level of player you're trying to recruit, the money you're willing to spend on wages. Don't expect Tottenham to be able to compete with Manchester City on that. Not even really United on that either. But Tottenham are more than capable of competing with the Chelseas. Competing with the Leicesters. Leicester have an incredible board. They really do. They back their manager 100%. And you see people saying, "Oh well, if we sack Mourinho, I wonder if Rodgers will come." Why would Brendan Rodgers come anytime soon? They're onto a good thing. If I'm Brendan Rodgers, I think okay, Tottenham is shiny. It's a brand new stadium. They're a regular, I guess you could say, top 4 club pre-corona. But I mean, if you look at Leicester, you think, well, I've got a board here that backs me, will give me what I want. They back me every window, more or less. Why am I going to go to Tottenham when I could do something with Leicester and crack on with them and go and have to prize the purse strings out of Levy and Enix's hands, not have control over the transfers because the manager doesn't have control over the transfers. And that's that. And that's where you've got to look at what probably Mourinho's dealing with. I think it is a completely. I think whatever he thought he was getting into, I think it's been a completely different scenario as to what he even thought he was going into. And it is his biggest challenge because wherever he's gone, he's had money to spend. He could have had whoever he wanted. Massive clubs, long histories of European championships and things like that. You come to Tottenham, it's a whole different ballgame. And I think that's where I don't feel sorry for him, but I think that because I think this job was really his last chance at dining at the top table in England, in my opinion. But I don't think he had any idea of the state the club was in.
Look, he's often sat on Sky Sports saying he'd like the players we have are fantastic, but I don't think he knew what was going on behind the scenes, to be honest with you. I really don't. And I fully agree with everything you say. You know what I mean? And a lot of what you said there is a lot of what I say, only you come across more professional and you can get it across in a better way than what I ever could. So fair play to you. And I fully agree with you. But look, we'll get these last few questions out of the way because, today's not about Tottenham. It's all about you and your memories and a trip down memory lane. So look, What game will you always remember and why? For me, there's a few to pick from. Obviously, you have the Lucas Moura hat-trick against Ajax in the semi-final. You have the 4-3 out in Milan that time when we were 4-0 down at half-time. Gareth Bale had a wonder game. That game that you mentioned with Danny Rose scoring against Arsenal. You know what I mean? The one where Van der Vaart got the winning penalty against Arsenal and shushed them. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of games there. But what game will you always remember and why?
I'm going to save Ajax. I think you're going to ask me my favourite, so I'll save that because Ajax will always be my favourite. Actually, today I saw an anniversary. Today was the anniversary of the Bale 3-2. Will always be one of my favourite Spurs memories ever. I remember being there. The old West Ham ground. It was it Boleyn Ground or Upton Park at the time, whatever it was called. In that away end, and I remember it so clearly. And when it hit the back of the net, I remember flying forward and ended up at the front, and I was, halfway towards the back. And I just remember seeing that, and what an unbelievable night, unbelievable results to get against, them as well. What a player we had. It always sticks in my mind as one of my favourite ones. Obviously, the ones you've mentioned as well. AC Milan 1-0, loved that. I remember being out there for that. Just, there's so many games you can even think of. At home, I even loved, Dortmund a couple of seasons ago. Jan Vertonghen having the best game I've ever seen him play. What a performance! And there's, a lot of them are based on individual performances, not just team performances, because they stick in your mind. Even Dembele against Juventus, what a night he had that night. There's so many good memories that Man City at home in the stadium, 1-0. But before we went up there, when Lloris saved that Aguero penalty, there's so many good memories you can look back on. It's hard to narrow it down, but Ajax is my all-time favourite.
Yeah, it was amazing. Look, of course, the league season that season, the Champions League run masked that form, the back end of that season. But that moment right there, look, we had to look against City. You know what I mean? But that moment right there, we earned that. We took the attitude to never say, you're never down. You're never out. You know what I mean? And we pushed right to the end, and we got that goal. It's the never say die attitude. It's absolutely brilliant. You know what I mean? I was actually down in college at the time. So I was watching it I went on my own, basically. And, I remember ringing my old lad, my friends and everything else. I couldn't believe it. Honestly, I was in tears. I'm not afraid to admit I was in tears. It was unbelievable being able to go to Champions League final. But look, there's been some there's been some great goal scoring. We mentioned David Ginola earlier. The great solo goal in the 1991 v Barnsley. You also have Paul Gascoigne's freak against Arsenal. You also have Gareth Bale's screamer against West Ham. Sorry, the Ginola goal, it was in 1999. Sorry, not 91. The Gascoigne goal was in 91. You know what I mean? But I've had some very interesting answers to this question. I had Anthony Costa on there last week, and he was telling me Paul Stalteri was his favourite one against West Ham.
West Ham.
It was a winner. It was unexpected. You know what I mean? So that's what made it his favourite goal. And I've had a few different ones. But what's your favourite?
Tough one, because like you said, there's a lot of good goals. Do you know what? There's one of my favourite goals. It didn't come from a win, but it was the Harry Kane one against Arsenal when he was by the corner flag.
Yes.
And he's cut in and he's got it. It's one of my it always sticks in my mind as one of my favourites. And we should have that goal.
That was a beautiful goal.
It was such a beautiful goal, and it's a goal that it was worthy of. It was worthy of winning the game, and it was a shame it didn't. But yeah, that's one that sticks in my head quite a fair bit. But yeah, I'm with Anthony Costa on the Stalteri one. I saw it not too long ago. It was on Sky Sports. They were showing it, when they do Premier League back in the day games and things like that. And me and my dad were trying to remember at what minute everyone scored in. And we got it completely wrong. But, we sat there and we watched it and we were like, oh my God, we're just reliving it. You were sitting there smiling to yourself. Look, there's so many good ones. Look, Lucas Moura in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Look, there's a lot.
You even have Wanyama against Liverpool. You have Aston first game of the season against Liverpool. Modric against Liverpool. There's a load of screamers in there.
You've really got me thinking. I don't. Do you know what? I don't have one particular. Like you said, there's so many where you think back and you think, wow, what goal! What a great goal that was. What a moment that was.
Dele from last night.
Yeah, you could have. I was going to also say Dele Alli against Chelsea, the two headers we won 2-0. Simple, but great.
Or his goal against Palace.
Actually, it was. Do you know what? That was one. It was on my birthday, and actually, I remember watching that, and I remember thinking, what a goal! Unbelievable. I hope he's back.
Birthday gift to you.
It was a very good birthday gift. I hope he's back in the squad. I really do.
And of course, you got to watch his goal there last night as well. You know what I mean? So jealous.
I was sitting next to a Chelsea fan who was working next to me, and he went, wasn't as good as Giroud's, and I went, yeah, it was.
You know why it was better than Giroud's? Because look, the ball came across with him at pace. His first touch, probably wasn't the first touch he wanted, but when the ball bounces up like that, it's split second decision. It's football intelligence, and he just went for it.
It was great. And do you know what? it felt like there were people in there because obviously everyone was like, wow, like, oh my God, look at what he's just scored. So it felt like they had a bit of atmosphere last night, funnily enough. And it was a joy to watch. I'm happy that I was there to witness that one.
Yeah, I'm jealous. I'm not going to lie. I was in awe. I was in shock. I didn't know how to celebrate the goal, to be honest with you. But look, for me, Tottenham is a way of life. The club motto, to dare is to do. It's inspired me on to do many things. Like anything I think I can't do, I always think to dare is to do. Give it a shot. What's the worst that can happen? But what does this club mean to you?
Everything. It's like I said earlier, it's in your blood. And, this club, they can piss you off beyond belief. The fact that you sit there and they make you so angry that you hate them and you think, I don't want to think about you. I don't want to talk about you. The beauty about loving a club and loving your football team so much is that you'll have your faith restored within 3 to 5 days and you'll be back like a sucker, ready to go again for the next pain, the next torment, every memory that comes with it. And, as a woman, obviously growing up, I always was going to football and my friends were going out shopping and very different polar, styles of life and interests with my friends. And unless you support a team and unless you love football, you don't get what it means. When your team wins on a Saturday and, loads of my friends take the piss out of me, they know not to call me if they check the score sometimes because they know not to call me.
Doesn't it?
It really does. There's been plenty of times, I'm not ashamed to admit it, I put myself to bed, at 6 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon because I've been so pissed off. All of us are the same, that's how you know how much you love the club, how much it means to you, because it affects you. And as ridiculous as that is, and I'm trying as I'm getting older to not get so affected by it. But yeah, I mean, it means that within a few days of them pissing you off, you're ready to go again. And you'll always have full hope that they can achieve something. And I do hope in my lifetime, your lifetime, we'll see us win the Premier League or we'll see us be successful because, I really think that us fans, we're always the bridesmaid, we're never the bride. Yeah. And I think that we really deserve to be the bride at some point.
Yeah, honestly, look, to be honest with you, if we win the Premier League, I'll probably go missing for 2 weeks celebrating. I'm not messing.
I know. I'll be right with you, I promise.
You see me out in Spain celebrating for 2 weeks or something like that, you know what I mean, enjoying the weather. But honestly, what you were saying there, about it dictating your mood and everything else, I'm the same. It gets me really down when we lose. And then, basically you were saying that the hope kills you. Every game, I believe we can turn it around, we can go in, we can win. You know what I mean? I'm always the most optimistic going into every games. But, recently, after the games I've been let down, especially the West Ham game, I felt really let down, to be honest. I thought we should have got a reaction out of the players there. You can't wait till you're 2-0 down to 60 minutes in to start playing, you know what I mean? But look, we'll get on to the last question here, and it's a question that I really like to finish on personally. Because one of my most cherished Spurs memories is being able to take me out, lad, because basically when we moved over from England back to Ireland, with the way my old lad was working, of course, I was only a kid, so I didn't have lots of money. But, when I got out and I got working, after a 15-year, time away from the lane, I was able to, it was his birthday, so I was able to get, I was able to put money in. My family, my sisters, my mother and I were able to put money in and get him over for a game. It was in the 2016 season. We bet Swansea 2-1. We're in the hunt for the title. And for me, just to see his joy, the joy on his face back in the stands again, and to see, a 50-something-year-old man look like a kid again, it's my most cherished Spurs memory. It's one I'll always keep with me forever. But what's your most cherished Spurs memory?
My most cherished memory. Do you know what? One of them would actually be City away in the Champions League. Because obviously, it was all over and then it wasn't. And I remember just looking at my dad and both of us just could not believe what was occurring. And it was just like the most insane moment. And he thought, no, like nothing can top this. And then obviously Ajax came. Yeah. And I said to my dad at halftime, I said, I cannot be stuck in here for an hour after the game, because anyone who's has ever been to an away game in Europe, that you get stuck in there for an hour and a half. If you've lost, you're in the shittest mood and you want to get out of there. And I just thinking, I can't do this. And, you know, at the end of that game, dying seconds, Lucas Moura, you know, seeing a grown man cry, I'm crying, the sheer jubilation of everybody around, you know, just tears, mental scenes, just things you probably would never have seen before. And you thought that you couldn't get past it at City. You thought, no, it will never happen again, because you had those scenes then. And to see it then again after what we just witnessed, for me, that's my most cherished moment. I'll look back on that day, that game, the rest of my life. Can't believe I was there, experienced it, the emotions that went through that game. Insane. And, you know, everyone just being together, loving the moment, crying, could not believe what was going on. Such a special, special moment for anyone, you know, there at home, anyone that supports Tottenham, just incredible. And I mean, I honestly must have seen the highlights of that game over 1,000 times, and it never gets old, ever. You get goosebumps every time you watch it. And regardless of how it finished, you know, in Madrid, it doesn't matter, because the journey is what everyone will always think of, and the run up to it. And yeah, I look back on it and I just think, oh, what I would do to be living in that time again, and have that 3-week pit, that 3 weeks after, you know, on the build up was the best 3 weeks ever. You know, like everyone was in the best mood. No one could knock you off your pedestal. And, you know, it didn't end great, but the games leading up to it, they were so special. They really were so special. That's
an amazing memory. And actually that 3 weeks after that, leading up to the final, honestly, all I wanted to do was just listen to Spurs content, watch Spurs content. You know, I couldn't get enough. Honestly, it was like, you know, it was like having a second missus. I'm not going to lie. I was just that much in love. It's unbelievable. But honestly, Abbi, you've been absolutely brilliant today. Again, genuinely, thank you so much for giving up your time. Those people out there that say, you know, women don't know what they're talking about when it comes to football, but you have completely smashed that out of the park. You've completely proven them wrong, and you've been you've been so good, and you know you're a dedicated fan, you're a diehard Tottenham fan. So again, thank you so much for the time you've given up. But before we do end off, you know, do you want to promote yourself, plug yourself, and anything else you need to plug? Work away.
Sure. Honestly, it's been great. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. Really, really enjoyed it with you. Whenever you want me back, just let me know. I'm happy to come back on any time. I feel like me and you could never get bored talking about Tottenham. So
no, definitely not. You know, look, I've had a lot more to say. I've had to help myself. I've held myself back. You know what I mean? But I've had a lot more to say. So definitely, I would love to get you on again. You know what I mean? Likewise, we could sit here all day, I think, you know what I mean? Yeah,
we definitely could. Other than that, just, you know, my handles below. Follow me Instagram at Abbi Summers, or on Twitter at Abbi_Summers for all my content. You know, I do a podcast as well, which is with 3 guys who work for Copper 90. It's not actually about Tottenham, it's about football in general, culture around football. So it's something a little bit different. But it's a different type of podcast to what people are probably used to. So if you want something a bit refreshing, talking about, you know, things going off the pitch, you know, fan culture, things like that, that's the place to go. It's called Run of Play. Handle is in my bio on my Twitter and on my Instagram. Other than that, just, you know, look out for me. I'm always doing bits here and there. So that's about it.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much. And look, I hope you enjoyed this week's show. If you did, make sure you smash that like, make sure you smash that subscribe button, and make sure you hit that notification so you get to know every time I put out a video. A big thank you very much to Abbi for coming on and sharing your memories. Thank you to the Harris Army and anyone else for watching. Until next time, come on, you Spurs.